in English. Um, so Dimitris Primalis, he's the head of Foreign Languages Department at European Philosophy at schools in Athens, Greece. He holds a Master's of Arts in Education. And this workshop that is entitled AI as a Catalyst, Enhancing Critical and Creative Thinking in English Language Learning, explores the transformative potential of artificial intelligence, AI in English language teaching, focusing on its capacity to foster critical and creative thinking skills among learners. As AI continues to reshape educational landscapes, it offers unprecedented opportunities to revolutionize language acquisition and cognitive development. So you will learn practical applications such as AI-driven writing assistants, interactive storytelling platforms, and intelligent discussion tools that encourage deeper linguistic and cognitive engagement. So by the workshop's conclusion, you will be equipped with actionable strategies to harness AI's potential in their classrooms, empowering them to cultivate environments where language learning becomes a catalyst for developing the critical and creative thinking skills essential for success in the 21st century. So today's webinar is part of a second Saturday seminars series that is offered by PennTESOL East every second Saturday of the month. So we have a lineup of presentations for every month. So please make sure you join us. We'll be happy to see you again at these presentations. If you have any questions during the presentation or any comment, please feel free to put them in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat, and towards the end of the presentation, we will open the floor for questions and answers. So thank you so much, everyone. And before further ado, let me present to you Dimitris Primalis talking to us about AI as a catalyst. Thank you, Dimitris.
Well, thank you very much for having me with you. Right, so let me share my presentation. First of all, I would like to say that today we were meant to have Maria Filippi, who's the head of digital education at Duca School. Unfortunately, because of her PhD obligations, she had to be absent today, but she conveys her greetings, and she's promised that she will definitely be with you on another session. I would like to thank her for being a mentor. She's an amazing person, and very soon she will be with you and sharing her ideas, her expertise. So I need to apologize before we start because I will not show you how to create a bot. That was meant to be Maria's part, but we're gonna use a bot and see what the whole thing looks like. Um, my experience has to do with teaching young learners and teenagers. So I'm going to show you some activities that I have used with them. Uh, but feel free to adopt them. And of course, towards the end of the presentation, we'll be having a discussion. So feel free to share your experiences, your ideas, and possibly some activities that you've tried with your students. Oops. I think we need to have a small break. There's some breaking news. Also, sorry about this break. It was meant to well, the latest developments are to be shared. Maybe I can have your reactions on that. I can see people frowning. What was wrong with this video? You can write in the chat if you want to. I can see that we're not that many, so you can unmute your microphone and share your views if you want to.
I don't see any video.
You
Yeah,
didn't?
Dimitris, that's what I was going to say. I don't think
Ah,
the video played.
all right. Let me try again then.
Hmm.
I'm sorry about that. Hold on.
All right.
Let me share it with you again. Okay. Give it another go and see what happens. Now let's see if it will play. Come on. Okay. What about now? Can you see the video now?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see.
Welcome to today's global breaking news, bringing you the most important updates from across the globe. According to reliable sources,
Kardashian has just been appointed education secretary. Press conferences.
is to be held tomorrow.
Needs a will change. Ms. Kardashian stated early.
Earlier this morning,
Notes. Social media literacy skills. New subject introduced to the media.
immediately in the curriculum, including TikToking, cosmetic. We will keep informed of the latest developments.
All right, I can see people smiling. What was wrong with this video? You can write in the chat box. You can share your views if you want to online, real time.
In the current political state of the United States, I would not be shocked if this were true. However, I think this might have been some fake news.
Uh-huh, that's right. Yes, yes. It is fake news, and I plead guilty. I created that um, using AI, artificial intelligence. It's very, very easy. And this is an activity that I'm going to show you how I did with my students. Well, not about Kim Kardashian, though I created that with the students, and we really enjoyed it. Um, so obviously, we live in very interesting times. Um, the AI allows people to do activities and create materials that it was unthinkable of in the past. Now let me see if I can change slide here. Okay. For some reason it won't let me.
Welcome to today's global
There we
breaking.
go. All right. So first of all, let's talk. Let's see what we're going to talk about today. I hope you will excuse my sense of humor. So the first one is what is generative AI? How it can help learners. We're going to talk about some ethical considerations, and of course, towards the end, we'll give the floor to the audience. Now, the first thing that I wanted to find out is what is generative AI? AI stands for artificial intelligence, and according to Claude, which is something similar to ChatGPT, I suppose everybody has heard of ChatGPT, the infamous ChatGPT. It's not the only one. The question was, what is AI? So according to Claude, generative AI refers to artificial intelligence systems that can create new content based on patterns learned from training data. So in other words, we're training computers to learn. And these models use complex neural networks, particularly transformer architectures, which sounds a bit um, weird to me, to understand and generate human-like outputs across various domains. Um, I highlighted the human-like outputs because from my experience and what we're going to see very soon, it's human-like. It has not reached very high levels yet, and it's not very close to what a human would produce. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Now, what can we generate with AI? We can use artificial intelligence to generate text, images, audio. It can even clone people's voice. The voice that you heard on the video is not a real voice, it's an avatar. But it can easily clone my voice, which can be a bit dangerous. You saw a video generated by AI, and we're gonna see a couple of activities based on videos. It can generate 3D models, which is mainly used in gamification and games. It can generate code. It can also generate scientific content, games, and synthetic data. I didn't really know many things about it. It can generate realistic, but also artificial data sets for training other AI models. Now, why is that important? Because we know so far that artificial intelligence is basically an algorithm. It's the instructions given to computers, put it simply, to generate content. Now, this content is based on the data that we have fed the computers. Now, what's very interesting is with synthetic data, is that it can generate realistic but also artificial data sets, which actually explains why problems appear. Now, the question is, what do you mean by content creation? I teach young learners, and I also teach students who are older. My students very often like to express themselves. And whenever I ask them to work on something, for instance, write something or draw something, they might do it, but whenever I use technology, they always seem to be excited about it. This is a recent project that we did at school. The young learners, we're talking about second graders, they're 7 years old, and they're learning English. They're doing CLIL, content and learning integrated, in language integrated learning subjects. And they were doing with their English teacher. They were being taught about plants. So the very basic idea was, we want you to draw a flower, and we will make the flower talk. What if the flower could talk? What would the flower say? Now, I don't have this is Elias's drawing. I don't have his voice because we haven't got the GDPR consent from his mother yet. So I used an avatar based on what he actually said. And let's see what the flower said according to Elias.
Hello. I am a sunflower. I've got petals, leaves and roots under the ground. I love drinking water.
What we did, and I'll show you in a few minutes, is we just uploaded his scanned drawing, and AI can transform that into a moving image. And since I earlier showed you a video, let me show you what we did with another student.
Hello.
Okay. We worked on the same pattern like the one that you saw. And I asked my student to create a fake news video based on positive news, on something that he thought would be positive, and he could share with his classmates. I want you to watch the video. I know that you're all language teachers, and I would like you to write in the chat box which grammatical structure we were practicing in class.
Welcome to today's global breaking news, bringing you the most important updates from across the globe. Real Madrid has announced transfer of an $5 George Primalis is thought to be a brilliant winger. His contract with Olympiacos expires December 2024. Young footballer, age 15, will earn 10 million euros. My best for my new team, George Primalis. Expect Olympiacos fans who want to keep Greece.
Right. Let me stop sharing now, and I can show you the tool that we used. Any ideas about which structure we wanted to use with my class? Some of you might have already guessed.
So we have
Present perfect. Yes, yes, it was that as well. Infinitives, that's right. Personal and impersonal passive structures. It is thought to be, she is thought to be, believed. So how did we go about it? George loves football. He's a footballer. He plays in the academies of a popular Greek team, one of the two most popular football teams in Greece. And obviously, what he wants to do, what he would like to do in his life, is become a professional footballer. So I grabbed the opportunity, and what we did is I said, I want you to think of what you would like to do in the future. And I want you to create fake news based on that. So let me show you the tool that I used. Let me see if I can easily find it. There we go. Okay. I don't know if you can see my screen now. Okay. It's
We
called
can't quite see it yet.
What about now?
We don't see your screen.
Okay, let me share my screen again. What about now?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Well, this is called Vidnos, but there are so many tools out there. They allow you to create either avatars or moving images. They're very simple to use. All you need to do is either use a template. That's a template about breaking news. If you click here.
Welcome to today's global breaking news, bringing you the most important updates from
You can use this one or any other you like.
Welcome to this video news template.
You can easily click there. Invite your learners to write the text. It's still loading. You can decide on the avatar's voice. Usually students at the very beginning, they're very shy. They wouldn't like to hear their voices. In the long run, though, you can easily ask them to do that. So you can decide on the voice that you're interested in.
Vidnos, AI brings your idea to high quality.
And then you can write a script here. You can invite another speaker. So you can type here what you would like them to do, or you can upload the voice. Most of these applications usually have the free version, and in the free version you use the avatars, which are free. In some others, in the paid versions, you basically need to what you need to do is pay so that you can upload the voice. But usually the fee is minimal. It could be $5 or $10 per month. You can decide if you want to have subtitles. You might decide that you don't want to have a voice, and you can preview it. You can decide on the music, the images, the background, the kind of text, even the font. And then you can easily generate that. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but you can easily create that with your students. Whenever I do that, I do it in class, and because I always have students who are minors and they don't I don't have permission from them directly. I always make sure that I use the AI tool. Now, that's one way to use it. You can either create fake news, positive fake news, or you can actually play with avatars. As you can see here, I did the same thing with the flower. I uploaded the picture, and then I wrote the script. I chose the avatar. Of course, you can do the very same thing with your own picture or someone else's
Hello.
picture.
If something about me strikes you as unconventional, then you are right. I am an avatar, and I am part of what artificial intelligence can create for educators and students. Is artificial intelligence in education a Pandora's box, a source of all evil, or a magic wand that boosts learning and supports learners? Let's explore AI together.
Or another idea is, but you need to have students' permission for that. Students love creating avatars online. So you can ask them to create their own avatar. You can see the one on the right. There are several apps. The one that I used is called Lensa. And you upload a number of pictures. You pay a minimal fee, and then it can create your avatar depending on what you want to be. It could be science fiction, it could be comics, a comic character, it could be an explorer. There was an explorer. And of course, you could either have your voice, your student's voice, or you can decide on avatars. And this is a very interesting way to exploit technology so that you can attract your students' attention. When it comes to having very shy students, I always invite them to write the script. Then we create the avatar. It's usually a talking picture. Later on, we're going to see how they can create a video. And then based on what they have, we create it. They usually share it. And gradually, they might be persuaded to use their own voice. Though if you teach minors, obviously you need to have prior consent from the parents. So creating moving images is something that might be catchy with your students, particularly if you have students who are not very much interested in creating language. In essence, it's the very same thing that you would do in class, but using technology very often might attract students' interest.
What's the name of the second tool? Is it Lensa?
The one that I used, that I created the avatar, is called Lensa.
Could you please put it in the chat? How you spell it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, if you just give me a second. Nothing wrong with mine. For some reason. There's something wrong with my. Okay, so it's Lensa.
Thank you.
All right. Now we can move on. And I would like to share another activity that I do with my students. My students very often are tempted to use ChatGPT and use other applications as well. Now, the first thing I would like to ask you is, you can share that in the chat, and then I can share the activity that I do with my students, is what's the main problem that you face with your students when they use AI? Are there any problems? I mean, do your students use AI? And if so, what kind of problems do you have when you use AI with them? Or when they use AI? I can't see any responses in the chat. Writing prompts. Well, the problem that I usually have with my students is that whenever I ask them to write something, they exactly they're using it not to do their homework, to not do their homework, instead of using it as a learning tool. That's right. Jonathan, I empathize. Yes. They usually ask AI to produce the homework for them. To be honest, these are magical times because it's like having a magic wand. You can ask ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Copilot, or any other AI tool, and it can instantly create stories, and they can copy and paste it, and the whole process takes a minute or a bit more than a minute. So yes, you're right. Why should they bother? They can't be bothered. So I'm gonna share with you two activities that I do with my students. The first one, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Oh,
makes sense.
okay. For some reason, my computer went blank. All right, there we go. Okay, I can see it now. So I'm going to share with you um, an activity that I did. It's an AI tool that's called, there we go. I think you can see my screen now.
What?
It's called Story Nest AI. It's all right. I hope you can see my screen now. This is what I did with my students. It allows you to create content with AI. It's not the usual thing where you can write a story, you can ask it to write a story and it will just produce the story. It's a tool that allows you to work with the students. So you can actually see the first screen. The students are asked to write the prompt. They have to write their idea of the story, include details about the plot, the characters, the themes. They decide on the language, the target audience. I particularly asked the students whom I worked with, that was on a one-to-one basis. I asked her to target early readers, 5 to 8, because obviously their level of English is not as high as it would be for native speakers. Then she decided that she wanted it to be fairy tale style. And then she wrote what she would like the story to be about. Now, in most tools, you can see that there is an AI wizard. From my experience, you don't really want AI wizards to interfere very often with what your students produce, because otherwise they rely too much on what AI is going to produce for them. That was the free version that you can see. You're given some credits. So there's a free plan. She wrote what she wanted the story to be about. You can see the mistakes. She decided on the characters. She decided what the plot was about. And then we clicked on it, and AI came up with the main idea. I explained certain areas. What's very interesting about this tool is that it's got a very basics of literature. Very often when students are at the end of senior high school, they often have to do, at least here in Greece, they do the IB course. And then we have to teach them literature. They're not very, it takes them time to understand conflict, climax, very basic terms that have to do with literature. So basically, we talked about it. We talked about who the characters were, what the conflict is, and where it should go in the story, the climax. The tool produces the general idea, and if the students are not very happy with that, they can always intervene and they could always edit that. Then if you click on continue, there's an overview of the story, the character profiles, where I taught some vocabulary that obviously she wasn't very familiar with. The plot, themes and tone, which is very interesting because I introduced the ideas of theme and tone to her, even though she's very young. She's still a primary and elementary school pupil. And then finally, we saw an overview of the story, the profiles, the setting, the plot. So to me, it was very interesting because based on her idea, AI generated something that she would like to write, but obviously her linguistic skills are not have not reached that level yet. And the next part was the tool asks you how many chapters you're interested in creating. She asked for 3 chapters. So we saw the chapters, we saw what she would like, if she was happy with the plot, and she was happy. But to be honest, because I've used that with other students as well, usually if you ask them the first chapter and the AI produces the first chapter, then you can always ask them to write the second chapter, and the third and the fourth, and it's clearly up to them. So after that, I think now I can use the tool. I can show you what the tool came up with. Let me see if I stop sharing. The tool came up with a story. We read the story together. I'm going to show you the story now. And what was very, very interesting. All right, I think I can share my screen now. There we go. Okay, I think you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Oh, all right. This is what it looks like. Now, this is Kelly's story. It was a bit spooky, I have to admit. So here's your story. Now, the good thing about it was that once the story was created, she was curious and she wanted to find out what the story was about. The tool allows us to edit it if we want to. It can write chapter 2, or it can generate audio narration for this chapter. So for students who are more into audio style, it's ideal. So she read that. The greatest benefit for Kelly was that she read a story. Usually, most of my students don't feel like reading stories, but because she felt that it was her own creation, which was partly her own creation, but not entirely, she was willing to read it. So we worked on new vocabulary, and of course she was willing to actually she was eager to check the next units, the next chapters of her story. What's most interesting about this kind of tools, it's not the only one, is that students can actually interview the characters. They can see the characters. This is another story that I created with some other students. Again, you can see the draft. You can see the characters. They decide on the characters. And if you click on the characters, you can ask questions. You can interview the characters. And the students can ask them either typing or by simply clicking on the microphone and asking the questions. So interaction is there. Of course, because I teach young learners, we chose topics and themes which are appropriate for their age. But if you have older students, you can use similar tools to help your students, one, create the outline of the story, have interaction with the characters of the story, which means that they will be using language. And finally, you can invite them either to edit the story or to write the next chapters of the story. So what I found most interesting with this tool was that A, students were involved. Two, they took ownership of the story, even though it wasn't entirely theirs. And they were willing to read texts. The main problem with the younger generation is that they're very happy when it comes to visuals, but when it comes to reading texts, they're rather unwilling because they're not used to that. And finally, they interacted, which is very important. And because they feel very comfortable with using technology, it lowers inhibition. There is most students are willing to talk to a computer. They're willing to type a question when it comes to computers, whereas when it comes to talking to the teacher or sharing ideas or views with their peers, they're usually unwilling because they fear that somebody might make fun of them. I don't know if you have similar experiences, but in all likelihood, students are the same globally. Yeah, this is called StoryNest AI. And it's a very easy tool to use. Let me be honest with you. You might see a tool today, you might start using it, and you might find that it works well with your students. And in a week's time, it might have disappeared, or it might not be working at all. And that's a risk that we have to take, unfortunately. So you need to make sure whenever you decide to use a tool that you have a plan B in your class. Either because the internet might be down, or because the computer might not be working, or simply the tool might not be there anymore. There are lots of tools which are being released probably on a weekly basis, or even on a daily basis. But you do need to make sure that the tool that you have been using will still be there. I would like to share a few more ideas with you, and then I can give the floor to you, and you can ask questions. You can share your experiences. Let's see if I can share my screen again. There we go. Okay, now, because I would like to give you some food for thought, here's a video that I found on the social media, and I felt that I could use it with my students. So let's see if you can watch the video. Okay. Now, I wonder, how would you use such a video with your students? I really like the notion, the very idea that AI can transform famous paintings, but linguistically speaking, how would you use that with your students?
It might be a great activity for description, asking them to describe each one and compare and contrast.
Right.
That's right. Yes. Yes. And if you have students who like art, they would probably be willing to talk about the different styles, the different approaches, and you can ask them to record their voices or even write a text about it.
Yes, and Jonathan says, I'd ask my students to describe the differences between the paintings. And Olga says, I ask them to use conditionals.
And let me say that I'm 55 years old. My technical skills and my computer skills are not on a par with what young learners have or young people. Some of them might be willing to try something using AI applications. The very basic idea is to encourage them to create content in the form of written or spoken language. They usually enjoy very much creating content. To me, the biggest challenge is to persuade them that it's their content that counts, and AI can help them wrap it up as if it were a nice present. Because we don't have that much time, let's here's a question that I asked Maria some time ago. And because we all face the same problem, most of our students come using homework that has been done by ChatGPT or by AI. So the question was, what if we stopped generating original content? What if everybody relied on ChatGPT or on AI tools, and they all produced work which was the work of AI? What do you think would happen?
Critical thinking problem.
Exactly, that a critical thinking problem. Yes.
And Olga
Creativity would be gone. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree, Olga.
Writing would have no soul.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I agree. Well, when I asked Maria this question, the answer was, technically speaking, because AI draws upon data given by computers from all over the world. If there's no new data, there's nothing fresh there. After a certain point, it would just recycle the same data again and again and again. In other words, it would just regurgitate what has been given.
Yeah, and Jonathan says eventually nothing really new would be created. It would be derivative.
Exactly, exactly. And this is something that probably we should bear in mind when we talk to our students and when we encourage them to use AI. It's their creativity, it's their critical thinking, it's their own opinion, their originality that we're looking for. In other words, we want their voice to be heard. Now, AI can be used to produce outcomes in such a way that can be very pleasing to the eye, very attractive, or it can help them communicate with people their age, because remember that they're used to visuals. Or when it comes to people my age, I was never good at arts, and I feel so happy now that I can easily create art by giving instructions. However, it is their content that counts, it's their opinion that counts, and that's what we're interested in as teachers. And this is probably what we need to convey. And yes, I agree with Jonathan. We need to change our teaching methods. It's true. It's true. We do need to incorporate AI, but probably approaching it in a completely different way. That it might be it's a kind of assistant. It's another tool that can help learners learn better, but still it's the teacher and the student that counts. Because I'm running a bit late, I'd like to highlight two more points when it comes to using AI. Obviously, this is not real. It's fake news, but it's so real that anybody could take it for real. And I saw that on the social media about 6 months ago, and I loved it. This photo was taken in Florence in 1504. Right, if you're 16 years old and you were born with mobile phones, tablets, obviously you take it for granted that at the time they had mobile phones, they could easily take photos. So, how would you go about it in class? What would you do if you had a fake news image or a fake news video? How would you use it? How would you exploit it, make the most of it, so that your students could develop their critical thinking skills, their creative thinking skills, and of course their linguistic skills? Speaking, listening, writing, reading. Any ideas? Yeah, I agree. I love your comments.
Yeah, Bill says, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Abraham Lincoln. And
I love it. Yes.
What's wrong with this photo? Share your thoughts. Yeah.
All right. What's wrong with this photo? Share your thoughts. Yes. Tell them that they're a detective and their task is to determine if something is true or not. Yes. And of course, ask them to share with the class how they would go about it. I shared a few years ago something similar. It wasn't fake, but the photo, one of the people in the photo bore striking resemblance with Brad Pitt, and the question was Brad Pitt a member of the resistance in Greece back in 1943? Actually, he bore striking resemblance with Brad Pitt. But the process was the same. You ask them to use their critical thinking skills, and they need to work in groups or in pairs. They need to find out exactly. They need to find out about the story, so they need to use their critical thinking skill and one work on finding out if back in 1504 people could take photos. If that is Leonardo da Vinci, who the woman is next to him, what's the story behind it, and whether it was possible, and why. And of course, they need to justify their opinion. They need to say why they think this is fake, or if they think it's real, why it's real. I like your comments very much. Tell them, Jonathan says, tell them you know that you yourself could generate the image. So how would you tell that an image is not true? Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Highlight the need for them to use their critical thinking skills and always double check. This is real. ChatGPT hallucinated. Hallucinate is the verb used to show that AI makes mistakes. And it does make mistakes because it was created by humans and an algorithm can never be perfect. There will always be cases when things go wrong. I'm sure that Laurence Olivier would have liked to have a very nice discussion with Plato, but unfortunately, this didn't happen. So it's wishful thinking for ChatGPT. And thank God, this is not something that could harm anybody. But there were cases where people were actually harmed. Their reputation was tarnished because of mistakes by AI. And this is something that you need to highlight and let students know that when they use AI, they need to double check. That's another example of fake news. That's my favorite. I don't really think that President Macron and President Xi Jinping actually danced, but then you never know. It's quite that was from BBC, and I like the title, like it was written by ChatGPT. Raise awareness that this is only machine-produced language, and obviously the way they express themselves is far more important than just producing a copy, something that has been synthesized not by them and produced not by them, but by an algorithm. It doesn't really, it has little or no value at all. And there's one more feature that I would like to highlight, representational harms. This is a short video that I found on the internet, a very interesting one, and it might, you might want to use it with your students to highlight the need for being cautious. If we can make it work.
This is why you should avoid mixing Barbie with biased AI image generators. What does a typical prisoner look like? What about a lawyer, a nurse, a drug dealer? What about a fast food worker, a cleaner, a terrorist, or a CEO? These are all images created by an artificial intelligence image generator called Midjourney, which creates unique images based off of simple word prompts. These exaggerated biases that AI systems create are known as representational harms. These are harms which degrade certain social groups by reinforcing the status quo or by amplifying stereotypes. A particularly extreme example was created when BuzzFeed published an article of AI-generated Barbies from different countries around the world. The Barbies from Latin America were all presented as fair-skinned, perpetuating a form of discrimination known as colorism, where lighter skin tones are favoured over darker ones. The Barbie from Germany was dressed in clothes reminiscent of an SS Nazi uniform, and the Barbie from South Sudan was depicted holding a rifle by her side. We need to be educated and intentional about how we use AI image generators. As computer scientist and digital activist Joy Balamwini puts it, whether AI will help us reach our aspirations or reinforce unjust inequalities is ultimately up to us. What are some examples of representational harms you've come across recently?
And it's true. If you use an image creator, being image creator and any other creator, and you type lawyer, in all likelihood, an image of a lawyer, you will probably come across an image. The image that has been produced would be of a male, maybe in his 30s, smartly dressed, white. And obviously, it's not AI's fault. It's got to do with the data that it's been fed. And this is something that we need to make students aware of, that inadvertently the biases are perpetuated. And obviously it's clearly up to them when they decide to use work that has been produced by AI to edit it, modify it, so that they will never offend anybody or they will not continue biases. We don't have much time to talk about prompting. These are the 5 principles of the correct prompts. And a colleague said that he intends to use AI with his engineering students. If we want AI to produce accurate results, then our prompt, in other words, the instructions that we give to the AI tools, should have these elements. the content, in other words, what we want AI to produce for us, the context. You can see on the right how I simplified that for my elementary school students. Um, the tone. If we wanted to produce either an image or a text, you need to convey the feeling. The style. If pictures, animation, video is produced, you need the aesthetics, and above all, you need to give examples. Because, like we read at the very beginning, with the definition given, AI tools still learn. In other words, we train them. If we give them examples, we help them focus. The more general the instructions are, the more likely they are to produce something which is not what we have been looking for. Okay, well, these are students who loved using bots. This is a bot called Mizu. They asked questions. That was an activity we did for about Martin Luther King, and they asked the bot questions. Of course, they knew that Martin Luther King is not alive. However, they were all willing to ask the bot questions, which is very interesting. So wrapping it up, I would say that we need to be careful when it comes to the biases, the over-reliance that students have. And after a certain point, it's also teachers who rely too much. And there are ethical considerations that we need to bear in mind. Now, if you ask me to give you my idea of AI in teaching, I would say yes, I'm in favor of embracing AI. But we need to reimagine education. It's what Jonathan said. We need to think of education in a completely different way. And of course, we need to reinvent ourselves. We're no longer the authorities that we used to be. There are sources there are resources everywhere. We do need to help our students develop their critical thinking skills and make sure that they use the accurate and reliable resources. And of course, it's an ideal opportunity for us to rebuild our rapport with our students, particularly after the difficulties that we faced during the lockdown. It's an ideal opportunity to show them that we're on their side, that we want to help them learn. And obviously, it is our advice, our mentoring that can help them make the most of technology that's available out there.
Thank you so much, Dimitri. This has been very inspiring, very informative, and amazing how much teachers and students can work with AI. And thank you for giving us, a lot of these ideas and websites, that we can use in the classroom to work with our students, and also how to write prompts, why it's important to write prompts in a way where we can make them work for us in the classroom, and also how to overcome those challenges, especially in teaching. And I like the last part as well, like reimagining education, reinventing yourself, and rebuilding rapport with your students. And there were a lot of wonderful comments in the chat. I could not read them all during the presentation, but I would like to open the floor for any questions that our participants may have about AI and the presentation today.
I can read the comments, and they're fantastic. And then thank you very much.
Any questions from our participants?
Yes, I myself, I'm studying Chinese now, so sometimes I'm using Google Translate not to create things, but rather to check things. So I might write a sentence in Chinese, put it in Google Translate and see if it produces look at the English translation, see if it produces what I intended. And then sometimes I'm playing with the grammar to remove a word or change a word and then see if that changes things in English. Google Translate is only okay for Chinese translation, perhaps because of the firewall. But I wondered, Dimitri, have you seen students or have you used AI tools in that way to help a student check their language rather than create the language in the first place?
Well, yes, and there's a growing number of AI applications that can help students. And to be honest, I think it's a major step towards learner autonomy. And because younger generations are more tech savvy than we are, most of them already use it. Um, However, we shouldn't take it for granted. I was surprised that 1 or 2 years ago when I realized that my students could very easily use a mobile phone. They could scroll down and download any app they wanted. But when it came to using a Word, a Microsoft Word, they didn't know that there was a spell checker there.
Interesting.
And they hadn't realized that they can use it to their own benefit. So sometimes, we take things for granted, but we need to make them aware of the full potential of technology.
Interesting. Thank you.
And Bill says, I love the idea of having the students generate the checklist that we mentioned earlier, because this actually enhances, I'm adding that this will help them enhance their critical thinking skills. Yeah. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, and I just wanted to express appreciation for Eta. Am I saying your name right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, Eta's comment about having the students generate that checklist. And so it's them creating the evaluation. I think it really adds to their self-awareness. So thank you for putting that in the chat.
Thank you.
Yes.
One could talk for hours about AI and what we could do and about the activities that we could do. But obviously, we shouldn't forget that it's just a tool. It's just another tool. It just keeps changing, and probably better tools will be available soon. But it's asked to make a big difference in class.
Yes. And that, there are many different ways to use it in the classroom. So I guess we have to be very selective how we are employing it in the classroom.
I think the key is for us to lead.
Yes.
If we're familiar with some AI tools and we're telling the students, here are some great tools, here's how we can use them, I think that's a lot better. In America, we say it's better to drive the bus than to get run over by the bus. So I think we want to drive the bus.
Exactly. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah, one way that I've been moderately successful with not getting run over by the bus is I had students, write an essay, and then I wrote the prompt for them of how we were going to get ChatGPT to make 3 suggestions of how to make this essay better. And so what they had to turn into me was the first draft, what AI told them to do, their response to AI. So they had to respond to each of these saying, I agree or I disagree, and to what degree I agree or disagree, and then revise the essay. And then they gave that all to me. And the class it was only about 8 students. So I was able to really go through and look at this. And, the amount of success varied, but, it got us to have a really great conversation about how AI can be a great tool to address issues in an essay rather than write it for you. And the other great thing that came out of it was that students sometimes rejected AI suggestions. If I gave them the suggestion, they're just going to blindly accept it because, oh, Bill's the teacher. But when AI does it, it's impersonal. And sometimes AI can be a little bit harsh, but because it came from a robot, they're not bothered by harsh criticism. So it worked out really well in that case. Some students got better replies than others from AI, but I think it started them thinking about AI in a better way. But then when it backfired was when a student came at me and said, "Bill, you told us we can use AI, and therefore I used AI," when that student had used it inappropriately, had crossed some boundaries and
Yeah,
had to create an entire essay with sources that weren't even real.
that's a great approach. I really like that. Also, everyone likes to be smarter than the teacher. So people might like to disagree with AI. Oh, AI told me this, but I'm smarter than a computer, so I pick something else. Wow, that's a great idea, Bill. Thank you.
It's stolen from Jill Swavely from Temple. She's the one who actually presented this at the PennTESOL Spring Conference, and I modified it to fit my class. So credit to Dr. Jill Swavely.
At work, we call that being productive.
Usually, when you challenge it, there's a challenge, they pick up the glove. Whenever I tried with my students writing something, and I said, "All right, let's decide on the criteria together, and then we're going to give the same criteria to ChatGPT or whichever bot you want." They did their very best, and to be honest, I liked more their writing than the one produced by AI.
One of the comments in the chat, I think by Jonathan, like how do we, or referring to how do we help our students differentiate between AI content and the real content? I think that's something we can teach. I'm adding that's something that we can also teach our students to be able to detect the differences between what is really real and what is generated by AI. Look, if it's a portrait, like looking at the eyes, the facial expressions, or some clues in the image or the video that show that it is AI generated. So this is also part of critical thinking skills, helping them understand, the differences between real life and AI generated content.
It is really hard, though. I went to the Office of Children and Family Spring Institute back in the spring, and I attended a session on digital literacy. And the presenter gave us some writing generated by humans and generated by AI, and some images generated by human and generated by AI. And she played a little game with us. She put us in teams, and we had to sort what was the AI and what was real. And while most of us got most of it right, we did get tripped up a little bit. We didn't get them all.
Yeah. Yeah. Olga, I guess you did something similar at your presentation at the fall conference.
Yeah. Yes, I tried it, and what I noticed was that the difference between human-generated stories and AI-generated stories were just in the nuances at the highest level. Yeah, at the very highest level. Like AI, ChatGPT generated stories might have been a little stilted. Yes, that was the only difference, but it takes a lot. I think it takes a lot of expertise to really tell the difference. Yeah, and for example, like when I write my books, I sometimes, let's say, I've written a paragraph, and just out of curiosity, I asked ChatGPT to kind of please. This is the prompt I give. Please edit it for flow and smoothness. And actually, the interesting thing is that ChatGPT has very, very few corrections. It may like drop like maybe a conjunction or something, but usually, or reduce it a little bit, but mostly it doesn't change anything. So, which means that it agrees with what I have written. So it's really, as Bill says, it's a very, very faint thing, like very fine. The difference is so fine. So, like, yeah, it's hard. I'm not sure the students will be able to tell right away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure I could be fooled most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. I have to. That's why we all have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And designing the activity at first, like give it really real critical thinking thought with that.
For content courses, there's something in the I do tend to notice when it happens, and every time I've called out a student, they've ultimately confessed. So I teach Introduction to Linguistics, and I teach Language and Society, which is just kind of an overview of sociolinguistics. And they do a lot of like interviewing, observations, things like that, and they analyze texts and such and apply linguistic concepts. But a lot of times, if they're writing something and I ask them to do, for example, a fairly rudimentary discourse analysis, what ChatGPT comes up with is not the type of discourse analysis that I taught them how to do. And so I look at it and I say, where did you get this? This is not how we said to do this. And I've even tried it myself, no matter how much prompting I do, and I'm the one teaching them how to do it. It can't produce what I am teaching my students to look for and how I'm teaching my students to analyze text. So yeah, I can usually pick it out when I was the generator of the original prompt or the assignment.
Sadly, something tells me that sooner or later, we're going to be worse. That people are going to read so much AI-generated content that that's going to seem normal at some point.
It's just, it's not very good at, so, when someone has decent expertise in an area, I think AI is just not good at hitting that same level of, not necessarily expertise, but understanding of concepts. And usually someone can look and go, eh. But also, I actually slightly disagree with you, Jonathan, because when we think about when Google was new, I was in middle school at the time, and everyone was saying like, oh my gosh, they're cheating, they're cheating, they're cheating. And the cheating did spike for a few years. And I think once we got comfortable with the internet as a tool, the cheating decreased. And I actually think that the same thing is going to happen with AI. We're going to go through a period where a lot of people are using it as cheating. The faculty are getting run over by the bus because they're ahead of us. But then I think that this is going to level out, and I don't think that we're going to have a huge issue with cheating long term beyond just the typical amount of cheating, if that makes sense. That's just my take. We'll see. It might get worse.
And MK says, I don't think people are going to stop thinking and writing. That's an instinct. Yes, that's right. Yeah. And she says, I love the practicality of AI that you came up with, Dimitris, and it's so refreshing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation. And I love the comments, and they've given me food for thought. It's amazing to share best practices and ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us from Athens, Greece. This has been amazing. Thank you. And also, you gave us a lot of excellent ideas to think about and think about how we can implement them in the classroom with our students. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning and taking time out of your schedule. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next in January for our next second Saturday seminars. We have a lineup of seminars, one every month. So we look forward to seeing you then. And this presentation will be on YouTube for you to check it out later, and also to share with your colleagues as well, and also on the PennTESOL East website. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you another time on our second Saturday seminar. Thanks, Dimitris, for everything. It was
Thank you very much.